Hello, hello, and welcome. I'm going to be sharing some guidance and covering a particular topic that has been top of mind for myself lately, maybe yours as well, and in hopes to shed some light and to arrive in a place of calmness, stillness, and reflecting on the inner work that we can do during a time of uncertainty. What's happening in the world right now? I mean, we've been going through a radical shift. Of course, if you're listening, if you're watching, you're going to be experiencing this shift that we've been going through in some kind of form. And I'm going to explain what this shift is and how you can work with it for your journey in the healthiest way possible, and also where we're going. No one really knows exactly where we're going, and there have been so many theories and predictions and a lot of confident predictions about our future as well. No matter what you hear and no matter what you feel as far as what may happen in the future or your future, we need to remain in the present moment first and foremost. And there's a lot of information. And I also uploaded a prediction around a catastrophic event as well, based on numerology, which is okay to talk about. It's interesting to look at the patterns and correlations within numbers, astrology, numerology, yes, and look at the patterns and look at these systems in a way of developing predictions for understanding where we're going or what's coming up next. But the thing is, when we hear predictions, what we're hearing may not necessarily play out the way that we're expecting, or even if the prediction is in detail, it may not completely transpire in the way that we had assumed or expected. So we need to open our mind to the possibility of the unexpected. We can hear a prediction and have things read or mentioned or described, but how it actually takes shape and takes form may be completely different than what we expected. So it's really important to be aware of things that you're hearing and just observe and try not to fall into fear first and foremost. And myself included, when I first found out about this numerology prediction that in 2029 there's going to be a catastrophic event, maybe a nuclear explosion, for example. And since then, I've heard contradictory predictions as well. So we don't know how things are going to unfold. We can have a certain level of understanding, but we may not have a clear knowing of what's going to happen and how it's going to unfold. That's why it's really important to be in the present moment. And if you're watching my video, and this is both going to podcast and to video, if you're watching my videos, listening to my podcast, then you yourself probably most likely are going through a huge shift within yourself. And this is the timeline that we're on right now. And we're in the thick of it. We're in the middle of it. But we are now moving towards somewhere better. And it's really important to remember that. We are moving towards somewhere better. No matter what you pick up from other sources of information, don't watch the news, FYI, I'm sure you're not, but just as a reminder, do not watch the news, do not watch mainstream media. There is so much fear that has been placed on society, and I talk about this a lot, about how fear really suppresses us and really damages us psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. And the more self-contained, in a way of not so much isolation, although isolation is healthy for us to understand what is happening within ourselves, process outside events, and also connect with ourselves on a deeper level. We also have to come to a point where we're comfortable moving out of that too and engaging with the world. And when we are in our true light, when we are in a place of connectedness within ourselves, then we're able to help others in a greater capacity. And remember, we are all connected. And by you being in your light and being in alignment with who you really are, maybe you've gone through the shadow work, maybe you've worked on limiting beliefs, maybe you've worked on difficulties within yourself. If that's the case, then where you are going is somewhere far better, your future. And so you have to have faith in that, and you have to have trust in that. And I know it's easier said than done. Trust me, I am working through this myself, and I understand it more and more as I move along, but it has been a journey. And when you go through the situation, or you go through your path in life, where maybe you are at this turning point, and the turning point could be years that we may face, where we go through this very, very strong transformation within ourselves, within our identity, within dismantling these old paradigms, perceptions, habits, way of living, way of feeling, way of thinking, and we move towards something different. And that shift, that time of the shift it can be quite long. And we all have our own path. And sometimes when I get to this point of feeling very confident that I am now more in alignment with who I truly am, I feel that what I went through, the difficult time, wasn't that bad. And it wasn't that long, even though it took years to go through. And I'm still cycling out the residual moments of the after effect, if you will, or on the outcome, the outer peripheral of that experience, if you will. So I'm on the outside of that big change, and I've received comments on social platforms like TikTok, for example, talking about the dark night of the soul. And there have been comments of, I've been in it for 7 years and there's no letting up. It's really important to know that we have choice, right? Free will, but we also don't in the same sense. We do and we don't. We do with our conscious choices of where we want to give our energy, how we want to feel, how we want to live our life, the kind of life that we want, how we want to react to certain situations. From a conscious level, we can be very aware of those choices that we make every day. On a cosmic level, on a soul level, we don't have many choices when it comes to our life experiences, what we're meant to experience, our own personal timeline of how things are meant to unfold. We can't rush the process, and we can't speed up the process by working really, really hard on ourselves. I'm in peace, I am in love, I am abundant, I am successful, doing all the mantras, all the affirmations, living in peace, love, and harmony, and not receiving what we are wanting, and they get really frustrated that it's not coming up. We can't push it and rush our timelines. We can't. It's impossible. We can put ourselves into alignment with what we really want, but we have to let that unfold in natural time, because there are many, many different layers within us, many dimensions that need to change and need to adapt to the life we want. And oftentimes we are on a certain timeline that our soul has pre-chosen. We karmically have to go through certain challenges, encounter certain experiences in our life. But that is where our choice comes in, our free will. We can choose to get sucked into the negativity and the wallowing and the worry and the doubt, and this is never going to change. And I've been there, trust me, but we have to pick ourselves out of it as fast as possible. And the more aware that we are about being in that difficulty and the fear and the negativity and the worry, the more conscious we are of those actions, of being in that state, then the faster we can work our way out of it. But that is our choice. That is our choice. So if we are falling into fear, if there's a fear of where the world is going, if there's a fear of not having enough money, if there's a fear of remaining in pain for years and years and years, then that is going to be where we stick ourselves, where we get stuck. All right. There's a part of this process that we have to go through to understand, and that we have to go through to heal and to transform and to go deeper within ourselves, into our shadow, into our subconscious. And we all have a different time. We all have a different path. Some of us require the deep, 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 deep work. Some of us don't have as many layers to go into, maybe different areas that need to be addressed, or different areas that need to be focused on. So if you are going through the depths, and if you're going through this really deep and dark time, take note of how much energy you are giving into it, or giving to it, and how much you are giving into it, And what do you really want moving forward? You have to know what you want, and you have to know who you want to be in your future to give yourself the guidance and align yourself with something better, but also giving it the time, yourself the time, the process, the time to find its way, right? So we're in a timeline right now of purging. We're in a timeline of purging. Your soul has chosen this. I know you might be kicking yourself. I've done that a few times myself for a reason. But I'm sure you've gotten to those moments where you just love life and things are working out. And you know that on a deep level. But yes, you may go into these moments of uncertainty, certainty, uncertainty, certainty. That is part of the process. But it is this juggling of emotions and thoughts that we find ourselves playing with until we create the clarity within. Then we know. We know what we're meant to do. We know our path forward, and we know our potential in life. And there are so many different aspects that need to line us up to arrive at that point in time. And the reason why I'm focusing on this, because I want everyone to really spend the time just to focus on yourself and not worry about what's happening in the world, and not worry about predictions, and not worry about the state of our future. Because the state of our future is going to be dependent on how we as individuals feel about ourselves and about the world. And if we look at the world in a state of negativity, as bad, as fearful, as corrupt, dangerous, controlling, etc., then we're just going to live in that frequency, and we're going to feed into that reality. Now, it doesn't mean that those things don't exist, but the more that we can align with our true self and rid ourselves of our wounds, our negativity, our fear, our worry, our doubt, we shift our perception towards something greater. Then we can influence others in a positive way. Then we have a greater impact in this world. And it all starts from us doing the work one by one by one. And so no matter what is happening in the world, we have to find our inner peace first. And it is happening. It's happening with you. If you're doing this work, it is happening. And you may have doubts, you may have uncertainty, but it is happening, and it will find you. And you just have to believe that that is what you want, and that is what you are achieving. It may feel like this. I remember years ago, I've been an entrepreneur for years. And I'm sure if you're an entrepreneur, you've seen this drawing go around because it was circulated for a long time. And it's the path of an entrepreneur. And it starts off straight, and then there are all these squiggly lines, and it goes up and down and sideways and circles around a few times and spits you back out. That's what it's like. It is like that. It is not a linear process. It is not a clear process. It's clear when you get out of it and you can look back, and then you can make sense of what happened. When you're in it, it's really uncertain. It can feel endless. So that's why it's important, first and foremost, to focus on yourself and to return to yourself. Do the shadow work. Go into the subconscious. Forgive. Do the forgiveness work, cord cutting, all the releasing, all the clearing. If you have a lot, then give yourself the time to do so. Try not to push timelines, and try not to get discouraged when things are not working the way that you're expecting or wanting. And I'm speaking from experience. I've gone through this many, many, many times. And if we keep repeating the same script, we're going to stay in the same story. This isn't working. Why isn't this working? I'm getting frustrated. My life isn't changing. Everything is changing. We're in constant change. Constant change. Your body's constantly changing. You're morphing. You're changing every single day. And also remember too, there's a lot happening that we don't see, and that we will never understand and will never know. And by that, I mean there's a lot happening within our multidimensional self and within the reality that we live in. And we need to be very open-minded. It's impossible for us to know everything. It's impossible for us to be a master at everything. So it is really important to have an open mind and to be flexible and adaptive with our way of viewing the world and with our way of viewing reality and ourselves. And so the more we can let go and detach, the freer we are to experience life and to move with the rhythm. And so remember that you are on your own path. And the reason why, again, I'm doing this, I'm talking about this, is because there's a lot coming up. We are still going to experience a lot of change. I don't know how it's going to unfold. I have heard a lot of different predictions and stories, and some of it had put me in fear, truthfully, but I had to dig myself out of it and focus on how I want my reality to be. And that is important. How do you want your reality to be? And then how do you want your reality to impact the world? Okay, so we can look at a lot of these predictions, a lot of these things coming up as negative, as harmful, as destructive. But if we are in alignment and if we are at peace within ourselves, then what possibly could be harmful and destructive to us if we are at peace with our soul being on a multidimensional level? We really have nothing to worry about. And I know some of the arguments, but I just want to plant that seed and for everyone to think about that for a moment. And the ego could come in and fight that, truthfully. The ego could come in and fight that one and look at the bad things in life and be very strong and stubborn around the negative side of what I just said. And that's the duality that we have in this life existing right now. And when we've dismantled the dualities and we arrive into a place of oneness and understand things from an open mind and have peace within ourselves, then we're going to experience life very differently. And remember, fear is one of the most strongest energies that we have, holding us back, weighing us down, preventing us from achieving our greatness and aligning with our true potential and enjoying life fully, is fear. And so we have to be very cautious. How does fear show up for you? Fear can be suppressive, and it can also cause reactions. It can be very reactive, or it can be very suppressive in how we respond to life or in how we are limiting ourselves from rising to our greatest, from stepping into our full potential. So take some time and connect with yourself and see where fear is residing within you and become very close with it. Try not to repress it. Try not to suppress it or ignore it. Find out where it's coming from. Go into the past if you need to. Try to connect the dots maybe with your family or early life. You can even go into past life if you want. But that is going to offer great insight into where the fear is coming from and how it is playing out in your life, how it's affecting your life. Then that is the process of letting it go. It's simply connecting the dots, developing greater sense of awareness, and overcoming those fears and developing a new sense of self as the result. So it is a bit of a learning process as we move along here. But addressing fears is going to be your biggest key. And fear comes in many different shapes and sizes. Fear can be, again, like I said, very, very subconscious. And we live in a society that is full of fear. We've been raised with a lot of fear around us, maybe your parents as well. And also, speaking of predictions, I want to add this in, and this has been something that has been on my mind for a while. If you are watching tarot, and I have my own tarot channel, I love reading tarot. I just want to mention this as well. Side note, that if you are really interested in predictions, try to look at tarot as guidance. Now, there are a lot of things that we can become distracted with that will pull ourselves off of understanding ourselves more. For example, predictions, wanting to know the future, wanting to know what's going to happen, how things are going to take shape in our future reality. But we also have to leave part of it up for chance, for our choice, and for our learning. And so if we hear predictions, we may actually carry it in the back of our mind. We may have it influence our decisions, and we may have it almost maybe even suppress some of our actions and some of our motivating drivers that we need in order to create success and to create change. Because remember, we are our creators. We are the creators of our reality fully. So there's a lot that we need to understand by connecting with ourselves, not looking at outside resources for crutches or for reinforcement that things are going to be okay. Well, if you want things to be okay, then you're going to make things be okay. That is how it works. So tarot is great for guidance. And don't get me wrong, I love tarot. Like I said, I read tarot. But I also see a kind of a dark side to it as well, of where we can fall into predictions and become very dependent on it and lose our sense of self and lose our sense of the connectedness within, so that we can have the guidance to make the changes for ourselves and to create the future that we want. And a lot of us do have an intuitive self. A lot of us do have very strong intuition. We have intuition we can tap into. Some of us have more stronger psychic abilities and whatnot, but we do all have these abilities in some level within us. And the more in alignment we can be, the more aware, self-aware we can be, the more tuned in with ourselves we can be with all our senses, then the greater ability we have to understand our future and understand the path that we are on, and even have a feeling and a sense of what's coming in. All right. So we also don't want to take away from the fun aspect of enjoying our life and the surprises. If we feel like something's coming in, it might come in maybe in a year or two, but we also can't forget about today. We also can't forget about enjoying today, because today is what matters the most. Tarot is great, and you can watch predictions to have fun. And again, don't get me wrong, but it is knowing the fine line and knowing what kind of predictions that we become reliant on. Self-improvement, spiritual development, understanding your soul journey, guidance, for example, is really great. It really is, because we also get really confused with what's happening in our life. Having a bit of clarity and having some certainty that, yes, we're on the right track, or maybe I need to make some adjustments, is perfect. But again, we also need to be our own guide. And I've said this before, but it's just another reminder as well. And will support your transformative journey, connecting with your deeper self, fine-tuning your intuition, maybe even psychic abilities, but it will increase your senses. All right. And that is the main thing. And the senses and awareness moves you away from the superficiality of the world into deeper understanding, more openness and expansion, eyes open, seeing reality for what it is. So that is where the tarot will be really great for assisting you on your journey to further that. Right. And yes, to have some guidance, for understanding what's going on in our life, because sometimes, again, it can be extremely confusing. So I hope this found you when you needed it the most, offered a bit of guidance and a bit of a pep talk and support for maybe some of the things that you are experiencing right now. As we move into a continual shift towards our future, know that we are on the right path, that positive change is happening. No matter what the news tells you, no matter how dark or dismal things might seem, we are shifting the needle. We are moving things towards the light. So unfortunately, this is the cycle that we have to go through in order to really push things forward, which it is happening. So have confidence in that and know that your energy and your frequency and you matter during this whole process. So focus on yourself, nurture yourself. If you're going through difficulty, focus on what you want as the outcome, who you want to be, and try to move out of the difficulties as much as possible. And know that there is something better for you on the other side. And if you want any help along your journey, if you want to go through extensive shadow work for transformation, looking for additional guidance, I have a 30-minute free consultation. Find it on my website. The link will be here as well. And book in anytime and we can have a conversation. I love talking about it. I can answer your questions on pretty much anything that you might be going through. So do book in. Otherwise, I will be seeing you here again very soon. And I am wishing you all the best with your journey and beyond. Take care.